cash go.
Yeah.
I like all that. What I don't like is I think they market it to the wrong people. I think that the things that they do are far better for really rich people than they are for people just starting out. I also think that the robo-advisor thing isn't a great name. That we need to come up with a new name for that. Maybe we could do that before we finish the show.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're right. Robo-advisor just sounds terrible.
Right, it's rotten. So change that, and I'm 3/4 of the way on board.
Yeah, excellent. All right. So let's say that there is someone who's just starting off with, and if Wealthfront's not the way to go, is there a particular? Well, so here's my other question. Because I've been recently listening to Tony Robbins because he came out with a few different books, and
right.
There's this whole thing about fiduciaries.
Yes.
And about how a lot of fiduciaries aren't really fiduciaries. So then that kind of makes a lot of people nervous that their financial advisor is not acting in their best interest.
Yeah.
So how do you find someone who does, like just starting off with, how do you find someone who is going to be helping and working in your best interest?
Well, you have to ask that question first. And even if they say yes, like you said, it could be S with an asterisk, right?
Right.
So when I was a financial advisor, actually, we were fiduciaries. However, there was a big old asterisk in our ADV that when it came to insurances, because of the way our insurance licenses were, we received a commission on insurance, that when it came to insurances, I was not. And I remember people, we'll call them horrible people, that wouldn't point that out. My job was to always point that out, said, hey, when we're talking about insurances, I can receive a commission. And so in that area, what I'm going to do as a fiduciary is I'm going to do this part, but this part is a part where I'm in sales. And I think you have to read it. So every financial advisor has this thing called an ADV disclosure. You got to read it. And it's boring. It's going to put you to sleep. But man, just choke down that one for half an hour and wipe the drool off it. And I think then you'll know what questions to ask. But yeah, look for you have to ask that question, and then you still have to read.
Okay, and just do your homework. Okay.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to homework too, I think the best place to start is with friends that you think are in similar circumstances, and ask them. And if they give you kind of a lukewarm answer, like I wouldn't watch a commercial and go, "Oh, really? Transamerica? I should hire them." Or "Oh, wow, they have commercials on TV." No, that's not why you hire somebody. So find somebody who's like you. Say, "Hey, who do you trust to be your coach? Who do you trust to be your money?" Because you really want somebody who's like an agent, right? I look at myself as a rock star. And I want somebody who's going to be the person who's helping this rock star get where they want to go. I don't want to avoid my phone calls from my advisors. Like, my clients, when I was finishing my career, this is going to sound really cocky, I was pretty damn good at what I did. And what was neat was the people that hired me were super smart people who could have done my job themselves, but they couldn't do everything. So they hired me to keep track of stuff and to give them a push and to think differently about situations than they do themselves. And for me, that's the kind of person I want in my corner, kind of a Gordon Ramsay, right? Mm-hmm. It just says, hey, that they love you. They're on your team, but at the same time, they're like, why are you screwing this up so bad? Right. And I love that. I've got a great friend who does that for me, and I love it. He'll call me up and go, man, you are stepping in it. And what a great friend to have.
That is. Wow. I'm curious then how you approach things, whether it's like money or otherwise, just times when you're nervous or afraid. And I know particularly this, especially for the listeners, can come with finances. Like sometimes it's easier just to not deal with things that we're afraid of. But how do you push past that and get over those?
Oh, boy. Well, listening to your show, this is going to be, because I'm going to answer your coming question very similarly, because this is something I've learned over time. It's the best lesson I've actually learned, and it actually came from Nike. It's funny that Nike taught this. So it came from a commercial. I just told people don't follow a commercial. My best advice came from a commercial. That's so bad. But Nike, before they had Just Do It, they had a little bit longer phrase. Like I feel like it took them a little while to come around to Just Do It. But they had this thing that said, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I really like that. I like the fact that, because I'm a guy that feels lots of fear. I totally get nervous about things. Ask my wife. I can be just a bundle of nerves. Mm-hmm. But I've realized that it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to not understand everything. And that shouldn't stop me from moving ahead with my goals or moving ahead with my life. And I know that money isn't the end goal. But if I want more fuel to do what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to figure out how this damn thing works, right? So it's okay to feel the fear, but keep pushing on. And that's a mantra I live by. And I still, that was probably 1988. And I swear it's still 2 and 3 times a week I have to remind myself that, because I just don't want to do something. I realize it's because of fear, and I say that to myself and I do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I had not seen that Nike commercial, but now I'm going to have to pay attention to Nike more.
Right.
See what other great words of wisdom that they keep.
No, I think they buried it because just do it says the same thing, but much more succinctly. So I think they got rid of feel the fear and do it anyway. We just do it. And, and just do it. What, they still have that one today, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They still, that's I think they'll use that one forever because they nailed it. And every time you hear the phrase, just do it, you think Nike. So it's, like their branding machine isn't going to change that ever. Yeah, just for me, it doesn't do it as much. I need to hear the word fear to get it. If you were speaking with somebody who is just starting off, and we kind of briefly talked about this, but someone who's just starting off, or someone who wants to now take charge of their finances, what is the first couple of steps you would advise them to do right now? Well, the first thing is to just get started, and just get started by automating. So put a little money aside, figure out how to put some money aside automatically, and start that. So even if it's into a savings account, that's the first thing I do. And then the second thing I do is I would try to find some financial stuff that doesn't bore you to tears. And by the way, that's not a push for my show, because there's a lot of people that don't like the dumb jokes at our show, but I'll give you a couple. Rick Edelman, his first name spelled R-I-C, Edelman is E-D-E-L-M-A-N. Rick Edelman has a great book called The Truth About Money, and man, is it thick, and it looks like it's going to be like this monster read. It is cartoons and jokes and even-handed stuff about money. It's probably my favorite book on finance that I've read. For my son, I actually recommended this guy Ramit Sethi, who has a book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. That book has a load of testosterone in it. So I didn't recommend it to my daughter because Ramit can totally turn people off. But for my son, it was perfect reading for him in high school. But that gave him a fun start. So those are two that I like. And then, some people like the Dave Ramsey stuff, like the Total Money Makeover. That can be pretty good for the right person, especially if you're dealing with a lot of debt. And I'll tell you, David Bach, the automatic millionaire, he talks about this whole idea that I've talked about a lot today about automating stuff. David Bach is a great resource. So I would do those. I would try to find stuff that's kind of light and kind of fun, and so that you start to immerse yourself in it a little bit. I think that we are who we're around, right? So so I have a story for everything. But when I moved to Texarkana 8 years ago, I had run some 5Ks. I'd run in college, but I had gained a bunch of weight, and I wasn't that interested in running. In fact, running a marathon was not something I really wanted to do. But when I moved to Texas, I fell in with this cool group of people that were all runners. And every weekend we have about 15 people that go running together. And we'll run these distances I never thought I could run before, 8, 10, 12, 15, 18 miles on a Saturday morning. But it's so many people, and we're talking about what movies we've seen, what we're going to do for the weekend, how your week went. And it's just like this 18-mile party with friends on Saturdays. I've been here 8 years, Yuri. I've run 11 marathons, and I'm signed up for 2 more in the next 12 months. And wow. And I guess my point is, it all is who you're around, right? It's all the people you surround yourself with. And I would do that with money. I'd start to try to hang out with people who handle money well, that are fun people that you're around, or do some surround sound stuff so that you get enveloped in it. Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's fantastic advice. Yeah, it's like the You're the sum total of the five. You're five closest.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, and yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've never really been also a runner myself, but I started hanging out with people who run triathlons, and I suddenly started doing triathlons. There's this,
that's fantastic, but that also reminds me of this joke that I just heard. I tried to put it on the show, but it's somebody else's joke, and I'm, unless it's been out forever and it's corny, and I don't know where this joke came from, but this guy was talking about a roach and how they were he said, I was trying to kill this roach in my house, and all I had was Axe body spray, and now the roach insists on calling himself Brett, and all he talks about is CrossFit. And what's funny about that, I guess the point, people are like, well, why did that remind you of that? Because runners, isn't it true, running in triathlon, all they talk about is running in triathlons.
Oh, my God, yes.
It is this culture where, holy cow, calm down, people. Like, I love it too, but man, that's all they talk about.
Right. It's like, what's the other joke I heard? A vegan, a CrossFitter, and an atheist walk into a bar. And I knew that because they told me about it in the first 2 minutes.
Right.
It's like that. Yeah, it's like there are definitely people who just, if they do one thing, they just talk about it ad nauseum. And yes, unfortunately, those kind of three things have that. But yeah.
That's so funny because I could do the joke thing all day, but there's that comedian Jim Gaffigan who talks about vegetarians always talking about I haven't eaten meat in a year, and Gaffigan says, well, I haven't had a banana in a month. You haven't heard me bragging about it. Love that guy.
That's great. I love Jim Gaffigan too. So Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. If the listeners want to read more about and actually listen to more about what you talk about in finance, what's the best way to get a hold of you and find out more about your stuff? Sure.
Well, thanks again for having me on. This has been a blast, and I tried to ruin the show, and I think I failed. So that's a testament to you. Stacking Benjamins is wherever you listen to a podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just put Stacking Benjamins in at iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play, wherever, and you'll find us there. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you want to read about us first, just go to stackingbenjamins.com, or I'm Average Joe Money on Twitter, and we're always having fun on the Twitter feed too.
Great, and I will put that in the show notes.
Thanks, man. Thanks a ton.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciated chatting with you today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Advance Your Art podcast. If you like this episode, please go into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button so that every single time I release a new episode, it will go directly to you without even thinking about it. If you're interested in hearing older episodes, please go to advanceyourart.com, where you can find the catalog of everything I've done so far, as well as contact information and projects I'm working on. Thank you again, and have a great day.